Thank you for tuning in to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Whether you're listening during your commute, while working out, or just relaxing at home, we appreciate you. Every download, every listen, and every subscription means a lot. Up next, the 12 Kyle podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. Man, check this out. First and foremost, I want to apologize to those of you who follow the podcast and listen. As you know, I've missed a couple of episodes here in these last couple of weeks. And with good reason. Your boy was battling the flu. Yeah, I think they said that I had the boogaloo flu. I really wasn't that sick, but for like 2 days I was in the bed and I didn't move. I didn't go anywhere. And the flu kind of ran through the crib. So each one of us kind of took turns getting sick. But I'm back at 100%, and I want to thank everybody for your well wishes and text messages and phone calls. Shout out to Britt, the homie Britt from I Can Talk About This All Day podcast. Britt would text me like every day, how you feeling? How you feeling? How you feeling? And I really appreciate that. So shout out to Britt for checking on your boy. But I'm back, and it is at 2025 at the time of this recording. I think I've recorded this year. I can't remember if I have or I haven't. Nonetheless, I'm back, and it feels good to be back in front of a microphone, in front of a computer screen, talking to the people. On this episode, what I wanted to talk about is the topic is don't be Theo Huxtable. If you're of age, you remember the show called The Cosby Show. A show about Bill Cosby, a fictional story about Bill Cosby and his family, his wife, Claire Huxtable, and their children, Sandra, Denise, Vanessa, Rudy, and their son, Theo. Theo was the only boy in the family. And what I always found interesting was that over a period of time, like there were a lot of similarities between me and Theo. Theo was a kid who he was still trying to find his way throughout the show. He was a cool guy, pretty popular at school. The young ladies thought he was handsome. That was me all day, right? At the same time. And what was interesting was Theo's age in the show really kind of coincided with my age at the time that I was growing up. So, this was one of the few shows in the 80s where I could actually look at TV and I could see someone that looked like me. And kind of dealt with some of the things that I was dealing with. And Theo had his ups and downs. He had to deal with being the only male, other than his father, the only male child in the house. And that was different because, growing up with sisters, and now that's where Theo and I differ. I didn't have any sisters in my house. I have a younger sister. But like Theo, you could tell like he was constantly trying to find his way, but he was very respectful of his sisters, very protective, very loving. And he did what, any other young man would do. He teased his sisters, obviously, because Sandra was the oldest. Denise was the second oldest, and then Theo really truly was the middle child. And with him having Vanessa and Rudy as two younger siblings, he tried to run roughshod over them. Typical middle child. I don't know what it's like to be the middle child because I'm the oldest, but middle children are a little different, to say the least. Myself, I have my wife and I, we have 4 kids, and our middle child, Cameron, is very much so the typical middle child. See, middle children, I think, are very special because, one, they're not the first, they're not the last, they're right there in the middle, and they don't really, generally speaking, they don't really suffer from attention. They get the attention, but sometimes they will go above and beyond to get even more attention. And that truly was Theo. Theo had his moments throughout the show with his friends. He was, very tight with his friends like Cockroach, who, always came on the scene and made you laugh. But what I wanted to talk about was Don't Be Theo Huxtable in the sense of Theo would do some things sometimes that would really, really, shall I say, get under people's skin. And I think Theo meant well in everything that he did, right? But in meaning well, he sometimes didn't think things all the way through. Like, case in point, there was an episode where there was this very popular TV show called Dance Fever. And it was the hottest ticket in town. Just think of like MTV, but dancing. And they had this very sexy co-host, and she would come on and not MTV, think Soul Train, but popular, or pop, if you will. And so Claire, Theo's mother, got Theo 2 tickets to audition for Dance Fever. So you had to go to the studio where they recorded Dance Fever, and you had to, audition or whatever, and then they could let you on. And if you got on, you would be dancing live on TV or live during the taping, if you will. So she got 2 tickets, and he was excited, super excited. And it was going to be him and Cockroach. So he told Cockroach, he said, "Hey, Cockroach, let's go down there, man. We got a chance to get on TV. We got a chance to dance with our favorite lady. I think her name was Tina. I think that's what her name was. For the sake of the story, we'll say Tina." So Theo and Cockroach go down to the studio. When they get to the studio, they run into an issue. The producer says like they only had room for one more person in the studio. They couldn't bring somebody else in to be dancing. It could only be one person, not 2. And of course they're together. So Theo tells Cockroach, he says, "Hey man, what are we going to do? I don't want to go in there without you." And Cockroach is like, "Man, you got the tickets, so you go ahead." And Theo's like, "Nah, man, you go. I don't want to go. I don't want to go by myself." He was like, and so Cockroach was like, "Nah, man, you got the tickets. You go. It's only right. You should go." And then Theo was like, "Nah, man, go. You go ahead and go." And Cockroach was like, "All right." And so Cockroach goes in, and he's dancing on TV with Tina. And so Theo gets mad at Cockroach because Cockroach was, in his mind, Cockroach was supposed to turn him down again. And then Theo was supposed to say, "Yes, okay, I'll go in and do his thing." And so that happened, and Theo, commenced to, be upset with not just Cockroach, but his entire family. Came home slamming doors and yelling at people and all kind of stuff like that. And the moral of the story is, go for what you want, right? Don't ever play yourself small. If you see something and you think it's yours, or you want to attain it, you should go for it. And, in that right, a closed mouth doesn't get fed. Theo should have never even offered Cockroach. He should have said, "Well, hey, Cockroach, I got the ticket, so I'm going." And Cockroach would have, he would have stood by and he would understand. But, he had to wait in the green room watching on TV his best friend Cockroach dancing with Tina. So I said all that to say this. There were a lot of different episodes that Theo really reminded me of me. I'll be honest. I don't know if I would have done that with Cockroach, but I've had a similar situation involving a young lady that I'm not going to get into because it's too much to discuss, but maybe another time. But nonetheless, when you want something, you go get it. You don't push it off to your friends and think that they're going to defer to you or what have you. I do remember the episode where Theo actually broke up with his girlfriend his girlfriend broke up with him. I can't remember his girlfriend's name. I think it wasn't Lana Herman. Anyway, his girlfriend broke up with him, and she told him that she wanted to start seeing this guy named Charlie Myers. And Theo couldn't believe that she dumped him for another guy, but meanwhile he was interested in this chick named Randy Taylor. And so and what was interesting was, like, that same episode, when that episode aired, I got dumped that weekend from my girlfriend at the time, which is crazy. And I thought like somebody was looking in on me, in on my lifestyle. But nonetheless, again, don't be Theo Huxtable. Theo made some mistakes, and he found ways to, self-sabotage himself. And then sometimes he just did some things that were just downright crazy. And what I want to bring to you guys is a story of my child, my son Cameron, who attempted to be Theo Huxtable on this particular day. Right now, it's time for a commercial break. On the other side of the break, I'll tell you how Cameron became Theo, and it wasn't good. Sit tight. We'll be back in just a second. Are you feeling nostalgic for the golden eras of rap and soul music? If so, tune in to the Rap Soul Podcast. We are your weekly journey through the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, spotlighting the music and the hidden gems that shaped the soundtrack of our lives. From the powerful beats to the soulful melodies, we bring you the best of the past with fresh insights and stories. Rediscover the music that defined a generation. Subscribe to the Rap Soul Podcast and enjoy the vibes. If you want a podcast where culture, conversation, and life collide, where you get insightful commentary, engaging discussions, and a fresh perspective on everything, then you need to listen to the 12 Kyle podcast. Hosted by the one and only, yours truly, 12 Kyle, a voice that you know and trust. This podcast will bring you thought-provoking moments, compelling stories, and a whole lot of fun. Whether you're a first-time listener or just tuning in, each episode promises to be something new and exciting. So sit back, relax, join 12 Kyle, myself, and my guests as we break down the world around us and give you stories that you've never heard before, from nostalgic throwbacks to everything in between. The 12 Kyle podcast is a front row seat to this conversation. Subscribe now and never miss an episode of the 12 Kyle podcast, where the vibe is always real and the discussion is always worth your time. And just like that, we are back. Once again, it's your boy 12 Kyle. This is the 12 Kyle podcast, and we are talking about the topic, don't be Theo Huxtable. Before the break, I mentioned that I was going to tell you a story about how my son Cameron, who was 22 at the time of this recording, became Theo Huxtable. Okay, so let me set the scene. So we just finished, this was over the Christmas break, right? So he was home from school. He's currently, at the time of this recording, about to graduate from college. So he's home on Christmas break. And so in my house, we have, chores. Everybody has chores. One of the main chores that we do is, clean the kitchen. So that would be, and what we do is we rotate. So between me, our oldest son, Dion, who's 25, Cameron, who's 22, and Brandon, who is 18 at the time of this recording, and myself, the four of us, we rotate as far as cleaning the kitchen. So obviously if I do it on Monday, then I'll do it, I'll have it on Monday, Cameron Tuesday, Dion Wednesday, Brandon Thursday, and then it rotates back to me on Friday. And that's what we do. And so like everybody pitches in. So, and here's the thing, like we don't really have our children do a whole bunch of stuff, but we do want them to particularly get in the habit and the idea of, taking care of your stuff, cleaning up behind yourself, and cleaning the kitchen. Now, full disclosure, we have a dishwasher. And so personally, I would prefer that the kids hand wash the dishes, because that's less water being used, and you don't have a $1,000 water bill. But sometimes the dishes get stacked up, and it's 6 people in a house. You can imagine that dishes, can accumulate over a meal or so. So anyway, so this particular day, and it's funny because I shared this story with my boy King Germ. Shout out to King Germ from Pod and Saved Our Marriage podcast. Check him out every Friday. And Germ, I had Germ rolling because he had gone through something similar with his son Prince Germ. But I told Cameron it was Cameron's day to wash the dishes and clean the kitchen. Right. So we had all eaten. And this particular day, Cameron had he'd gone to work. He has a local job here or whatever. And so he went to work, and he was getting off work at 11 p.m. So I told him, I sent him a text. I said, hey, Cameron, don't forget it's your day to clean the kitchen. And so, you don't want to go to bed with a sink full of dishes or anything like that, or wake up to a sink full of dishes. We don't preach that in this house. We preach that, when the day is done, whoever cleans the kitchen last. So you'll clean the kitchen after breakfast, maybe sometime during the day. If not, you definitely want to make sure that the dishes are at the very least washed in the dishwasher in the evening. And so I sent Cameron a text. I said, pretty much in the text, basically like, hey, don't forget tonight is your night to clean the kitchen. There are not a lot of dishes in the sink, but you can put them in the dishwasher. And that's all I said. And so, Cameron gets home. He got home maybe around 11:30. I was in and out of sleep or whatever. Because I typical parent, I can't fall asleep until the kids are in the house. That's just fatherhood, I guess. That's just me. I'm wired like that. So I was drifting in and out of sleep. So I heard him come in, and then he turned the alarm on the house, and he came and said, what's up? And then he went to bed, or I don't know what he did after that. I heard him mumbling. I heard him moving around downstairs. Right. And so I'm thinking, okay, he got my text message, he'll do what he's supposed to do as far as the kitchen is concerned. Right. Wrong. So I wake up the next day, and I'm the first one up, getting ready to go to the gym. I come, get myself together, come downstairs. I see that the kitchen, really wasn't clean. I mean, there's crumbs and stuff on the stove. There's crumbs on the counter. There's crumbs on the kitchen table. Nothing has happened basically. And so, but there are no dishes in the sink. And so I looked in the dishwasher. Well, I looked at the dishwasher, and I did not see the sign that's the listing that said that it was clean and finished. And so I'm like, was the dishwasher not turned on? So I opened the dishwasher, and lo and behold, all of the dishes that were in the sink were in the dishwasher. So I checked the little thing, and there was no dish pod in the dishwasher. And so I'm like, wow, Cameron didn't turn the dishwasher on, but he put the dishes in the dishwasher. Okay. So I wasn't happy about that, because now we have a bunch of dirty dishes, and I know pretty soon everybody else is going to be getting up, and you don't want to have to be digging. And trust me, we have more than enough utensils, but you would rather have the dishes done and clean and put away so that they'll be refreshed for everybody else who comes down and eats breakfast in the morning. So I go to the gym, come back, and I think it was a Saturday, so I'm chilling. And so when I get back from the gym, I see Cameron, and I said, good morning. And I'm talking to him, and then I say, hey, Cameron, you didn't turn the dishwasher on last night. And he looked at me, and he became Theo Huxtable. He uttered the words, well, Dad, you didn't say to turn the dishwasher on. Huh? What? I said, Cameron, why didn't you turn the dishwasher on? He said, Dad, you sent me a text and said that I could put the dishes in the dishwasher. And I said, yeah. I said, I sent you the text because I figured that, hey, you know, you'd been working since 3:00 because he worked from 3 to close. And, you know, you're probably tired. And so instead of having you stand and wash the dishes like I did back in 1988, because there was no dishwasher in my house. Please believe this. I was the dishwasher, me and my brother Damon. And so I'm like, Cameron, bruh, why didn't you turn the dishwasher on? And he said, well, Dad, you didn't tell me to turn it on. And I'm like, but I sent you a text. I only sent the text with the idea of telling you because I was called myself looking out for you because I knew that you were tired. And I figured that you probably wouldn't want to spend another 30 minutes standing washing dishes, that it'd be easier for you just to put the dishes in the dishwasher, turn it on, and, you know, take a shower and go to bed. And he looked at me again and said, but you didn't tell me to turn it on. All I could do is chuckle at this point. I said, Cameron, why didn't you turn the dishwasher on? I said, was there nothing in your head to say, hey, I'm putting the dishes in the dishwasher, let me turn it on? And then his response was, well, even if I would have turned it on, it's not really enough dishes in here to turn it on for. Cameron, bruh, I made the assessment as to how many dishes are in the dishwasher. Excuse me. I told you to put the dishes in the dishwasher. If I really wanted just the dishes just to be in the dishwasher and not the dishwasher being turned on, I could have done that myself. I would have never sent you a text. And it just clearly went over his head. And he proceeded to say and try to defend, and I'm using quotation marks, defend himself in saying that, well, Dad, you should have said turn the dishwasher on. And I'm like, Cameron, you are about to be a college graduate. I should not have to tell you to turn the dishwasher on if I told you to put dishes in the dishwasher. I think that's kind of understood. Please don't be that simple. And he just didn't get it. So we went back and forth for about 5 minutes. And I'm like, look, and I just told him, I said, look, dog, this is it. The bottom line is you should have turned the dishwashers on. You should have turned the dishwasher on once you place the dishes in the dishwasher. It's not that hard, Theo Huxtable. It's not that hard. And he proceeded to walk off and mumbled to himself. I don't know what he mumbled, but the boy was dumbfounded. He didn't understand how or why I thought that way. And I call King Germ because I know Germ's son and Cameron are probably about a year or two apart. And Germ had a similar situation. And I'm just like, we could not have been this silly. I don't think that we were. I remember me at 22. I remember me at 18. It was the 90s. I wasn't like this. I was a lot of things. And I, at points in my life, was Theo Huxtable. Now, Theo kept a very messy room and clothes and stuff all over. I couldn't live like that. My mom, she wasn't having that. And, you know, for the most part, Cameron keeps a clean room. His room isn't junky at all. He's very organized. But don't be Theo Huxtable. And so that's the moral of the story. Don't be Theo Huxtable. That is something that Theo would do. Cliff and Claire would have had to tell Theo to put the dishes in the dishwasher, turn the dishwasher on, turn the lights off, come upstairs, turn the alarm off, Turn the alarm on, take a shower. I'm like, bruh, I shouldn't have to tell you these things. And so I just walked away from the conversation thinking like, wow, I just had a conversation with Theo Huxtable. I didn't think that Theo existed in this house, but here he is in the flesh. And so in conclusion, I want you all to take from this is, sometimes, and you don't necessarily have to be a parent, but sometimes you have to spell things out. Even when you don't think you should have to spell things out, you have to spell things out for younger people. Sometimes for older people. But just don't be Theo Huxtable. Because in this sense, it led to a bunch of back and forth. It led to some frustration. I mean, I can laugh about it now, but I was extremely frustrated that day because I didn't think I had to tell him to turn the dishwasher on, because in my mind, how else were the dishes going to be washed? I mean, I could have said, hey, just wash the dishes with your hands, which is what I did back in the day. But I'm not Cliff and he's not Theo, but we definitely had a Huxtable moment. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for me. Thank you for checking out this edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast. This podcast drops every Thursday at midnight. From time to time, we drop bonus episodes on Sundays at midnight. We also have a new baby. We have a new baby. It is called the Rap Soul Podcast. It is discussions where we have the intersection of talks from the 80s, 90s, and the 2000s when it comes to rap, soul music, hip hop, R&B. It is the best music podcast that you've never heard. So check it out. You can find it wherever you find these podcasts. You can hit me up on social media at 12 Kyle, at Rap Soul Podcast, at the 12 Kyle Podcast on all social media platforms, Twitter X, Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, Facebook, and the TikTok. We also have merch. Click the link in the description box. There's a link that says merch. Click that. You can buy 12 Kyle Podcast t-shirts, hoodies, as well as coffee mugs. We got it for the low. And if you'd like to contribute to the podcast financially, hit us up on Cash App. $TWELBEKYLE. Again, that's going to do it for me. I am your boy 12 Kyle. We'll catch you guys next time. 5 G's. Chill.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of the 12 Kyle podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and share this podcast with a friend who needs the 12 Kyle podcast in their life. Every listen, every download, and every share helps us grow. Thanks for being a part of the 12 Kyle podcast community. We appreciate your support. We will catch you next time. 5,000.